Hey, Thomas Bartke here with another video for the Artisan Sound channel, and I think I owe you an update on the sound work for the Children of Eden show. I think we left off when I showed you how I created the breakdown here of, I think it was kind of like this when we left off, where I have all the music cues listed, and with that then broken through everything that changes, where someone goes on and off, or where a musical change or a dialogue change might require a change in the microphone configuration. So I went through that and I took the timings from the beginning of each track. So here you can see the music cue numbers, here's the music title, and then here's the next one, and so forth. And I had mentioned that in this script of the Children of Eden Jr., it's a little bit unusual that there are actually no scenes broken down. So it's kind of just all goes by the musical numbers, and then there's only a little bit of dialogue every now and then between musical numbers, and most everything is just either with underscore or with songs. So there's a lot of music in the show, and the script kind of reflects that. So therefore it doesn't make it necessary. It saves you kind of the extra step of keeping track of scenes and acts. There's also no act break, even though I kind of put an act break here because the storyline shifts from the story of Adam and Eve to the story of Noah and his wife and children. And so I kind of call that Act 2 here just for the purpose of signifying that everything changes with regards to character names for the channels and so forth. So luckily our cast is doubling for the main cast role, or the main roles in Act 1 and Act 2. So after I did all this breakdown here, I then figured out who was involved in each scene or in each change here, configuration change, and I logged this over here by character, and then I figured out which actors, which cast members are actually cast for two roles, one in the first act and one in the second act. So for example, Adam and Noah happens to be the same, Eve and Miss Noah is the same, Cain and Shem is the same actor, and so forth. So where this overlaps and doubles, it's simple. I could just collapse the different parts into the same microphone channels, and then I had to still figure out some irregularities that have to do with, just with the lack of microphone channels. But so I made the microphone plan like this, and then I went into the next step, the next section, and that is creating and programming cues for the X32 console. And the way I did this here is I created 3 columns in addition here to the ones that I had. And the first column logs which cue number is used. And I had to kind of create these numbers as I went along. And then I'm in this case, because I'm planning on automating everything anyway, because there's so much music and so much can actually be automated. Almost like 99% of all the changes can be automated to happen under the music. So because of that, I decided not to create a separate cue for each and every mute and unmute change that happened, but rather I'm logging simple changes of mutes and unmutes here in separate columns. So one column for mutes and one column for unmutes, and then one column for the cue numbers. So the numbers in mutes and unmutes obviously mean they refer to the microphone channel or to the channel that needs to be unmuted or muted. And as you can see, it's always very simple. And the numbers here refer to the cue numbers. And let me just show you how I did this in the X32 Edit app. So this is an app that I can conveniently here run on my PC at home. And I can set up all the setup. I can do all the setup here and do the layout of the channels and then the layout of the groups. And And then I can go in here and also create the X32 cues. And this is a pretty simple process where you have to work with snippets. So it's kind of like this, digging a little deeper into the architecture of the X32 and the way that this show control works. So the idea here is that you're able to create snippets and then call them up with cues. And the cues is what you're actually going to switch in your interface on the board, or you can also remote control that, or you can automate it. And so in any case, you have a limitation to 100 snippets. So the idea is that you may have snippets that you can reuse. For example, my first snippet that says mute all, that's usually frequently reused. But there are some other snippets that I created where basically the same microphone and DCA configuration is relevant, and I'm reusing that several times in the cues. And then this is an interesting, so I basically went through the whole show and just set everything up according to the spreadsheet. And what you do is you create the snippet first. Basically you set up everything on the board, you name everything, and then you just put the mutes and unmutes the way it needs to be for that specific snippet. So let's say storytellers, and then you can double click on this. You can see everything changes according to that particular setup and configuration. And then you come over here to cues, and you create a new cue, and then you assign the snippet here. You select the snippet that you want to call up with that cue. And then what I did here, there's an interesting column that is basically allowing me to quickly and easily distinguish between the cues that are going to be called up automatically through QLab. So for those, you simply set them to skip here, so they're still there. They have to exist in the show control, but you can set them to skip. And then the ones that have to be manually triggered, they're right here. I'm actually not quite sure if this one is actually manually triggered. I'm going to double check on that. But in any case, so the manually triggered ones they basically have to be switched manually on the board. They are relevant to dialogue scenes where the music isn't playing, and so therefore we can't send automation that is attached to music cues from QLab. And so a few of them you can see are not skipped, and they just have to be done manually from the board or from an app. Or maybe we'll find another event like a light event that is manually fired from QLab, and we could maybe set this up then to be triggered together with that light event. Or maybe even as a separate manual event, just set it up directly in QLab, because we have a QLab operator, and so it doesn't make a big difference for them to find another cue here that would just manually trigger that. So you don't even have to bother with any interface that is operating the board, the X32 board, separately. So that's the status here. Let me know if you have any questions that, I probably skipped some details here. Particularly, I didn't talk at all about the process of assigning DCA groups. And I just want to show you one more thing here. So I have all the layout here looks different. You can see here for the first act, Father, Adam, Eve, and these are actually actor names because it's a little bit easier to keep track of them with actor names in this case. So I kind of mix and matched that according to my needs. But then you see in the second act, let me call up something from the second act, like anything here that has a bunch of people going. All right, and now we can see the labels here have all been relabeled and renamed to whatever the characters are in the second act. You see, so this is all nice and easily possible because in the snippets, you see here I have this checked, source and scribble. And scribble is whatever you name the tracks here, the channels, those channel names. They are saved in scribble. And so if you include the source and scribble parameter, in your saved snippets, then you can easily switch between them and have them, you see here, now it changed back to this one. And so, you know, whatever this is still in first act, whatever the label scheme is, or even routing, so even the combination into the DCA groups, that can all be flexible and done very easily like that. And it takes like no time at all to actually recall those snippets through the cues. So that is like an instant thing. The audio doesn't get interrupted in the console output, and everything is good that way. Okay, so this is it. Let me know if you have any questions to this process and the procedure, or if you have any comments, just leave them. And I'll talk to you soon. This is Thomas Bartke signing off with the Artisan Sound channel.